Thank you, Javon, and welcome to tonight's regional news. We now start with a story coming out of Trinidad and Tobago. Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi has laid two pieces of legislation in Parliament that seek to decriminalize marijuana. The bills are called the Dangerous Drugs Amendment Bill and the Cannabis Control Bill. They will both come up for debate in the House of Representatives at a later date. In laying the legislation, the AG said that between 2017 and 2018, there were 84,666 cases before the courts under the Dangerous Drugs Act for possession, cultivation, and gathering of weed. Al-Rawi told the court that it is mostly poor and underprivileged men who feel the brunt of the law under the existing legislation. He stated that approximately 500 people each year are unable to access bail even though they were granted bail by the court over marijuana possession. The new law will maintain the prohibition of the use of marijuana in public spaces, educational places, and places of work. It will allow a person to lawfully grow no more than 4 cannabis male plants at a residence without a license. Possession of 30 grams or less will no longer be an offense. Fixed penalties will apply for possession of more than 30 grams, but not more than 60 grams, and for possession of 5 to 10 grams of resin. The full brunt of the law will be applied only if someone refuses to pay the fixed penalty and after community service is explored. And now we turn to news in Jamaica.
Listen to us, please. Many of us are afraid to go to school, afraid to go home, afraid to go outside in our communities. We live in fear that we will be the next victims of violence.
Those were the words of 10-year-old Keno King, along with 7-year-old Ngozi Wright, her twin brother Tafari, and 18-year-old Chanel Hall, as they addressed the nation's parliament in an unprecedented session on violence against children at the observation of the 30th anniversary of the United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child. Together, the 4 youngsters painted a grim picture before the legislators of the reality of scores of children across the country, 46 of whom were murdered last year. Already, 41 have been killed between January 1 and November 14 this year, according to UNICEF Jamaica. 1 out of 4 students aged 13 to 15 is bullied, while 1 in 4 adolescent girls has experienced sexual violence. Keno shared the experience of some of his peers who were among 300 children from 3 parishes who participated in town hall sessions over the past 3 months discussing violence against children. Among the stories were reports of children being violently disciplined, children witnessing crimes including murder, children being sexually abused by people close to them, and children living in the same space with pedophiles. 18-year-old Hall stated that children want to be heard and called for decision makers to consult with children on a regular basis to learn more about what they are experiencing in order to guide the development of relevant laws, programs, and policies. The youths called for these specific initiatives to be implemented, the launch of a national anti-bullying campaign, and to implement a toll-free 24-hour counseling service. And finally, we turn to Trinidad and Tobago. Days after losing her 3-year-old daughter, Pretoria Smith, to what was suspected to be the H1N1 virus, Dewati Sinanan is now praying to God to save the life of her 2-year-old son, Preston. The child is currently warded in a serious condition at the San Fernando General Hospital. Doctors are now running multiple tests to see whether he too became ill after contracting a virus. Preston is already suffering from symptoms such as body pains, fever, and shortness of breath, and Sinanan said doctors told her that he had a 90% chance of having sickle cell disease. This makes him especially vulnerable to complications from the H1N1 swine flu virus. The child had been sick for several days before her sister, Pretoria Smith, died at their Sumsum Hill Clarkston Bay home, and Sinanan was convinced he was making a full recovery. Now she believes she was wrong. She said she still had no closure over Pretoria's death. The tissue samples taken from her body were still being analyzed, and Sinanan said she would have to wait until next week to find out whether the child died from the H1N1 virus. Sinanan said a doctor who did tests on Pretoria's body told her her child's organs failed after she contracted H1N1, but the death certificate did not reflect this. Health Minister Terence Delia Singh, in response, stated that there was nothing in place for a healthcare unit to go into communities to isolate and vaccinate people at risk. Instead, he said he has been appealing to the people to go to the health centers. And that was all for tonight's regional news. Thanks for joining, and back to you, Javon.